Welcome back to Slow English Practice. This is the second story in our job interview series. In this conversation, you will hear Thomas, a UX designer, answering 3 interview questions. We are skipping "Tell me about yourself" in this story. If you want to hear how to answer that question, the link to the previous story is below. Let's listen to Thomas.
Thomas, let's start with something fundamental. Can you walk me through your design process?
Sure. My process always starts with understanding the problem, not jumping into Figma right away. First, I try to understand who the users are and what they are trying to achieve. I do this through user interviews, reviewing analytics, or looking at support tickets. Once I have a clear picture of the problem, I move to ideation, sketching different directions before committing to one. Then I build a prototype, test it with real users, and iterate based on what I learn. The honest answer is that the process is rarely linear. Sometimes testing reveals a problem that sends me back to the beginning. And I think that is fine. It means the process is working.
That is a good point about iteration. How early do you usually involve developers in that process?
As early as possible. I find that when developers are part of the conversation from the beginning, we avoid a lot of problems later. They often catch technical constraints that I would not think of on my own.
A short note. Thomas said iterate. This means to improve something step by step, making small changes each time based on feedback or testing.
Thank you, Thomas. Let's talk about communication. How do you present your design decisions to stakeholders?
I learned early on that showing a beautiful design and expecting people to love it rarely works. When I present to stakeholders, I always start with the problem we are solving and why it matters. Then I show the design as a response to that problem, not as a standalone piece of work. I also try to bring data whenever I can, whether it is from user testing, analytics, or benchmarks. It shifts the conversation from "I like this" or "I don't like this" to something more objective, and I always leave room for questions. Stakeholders often have context I don't have. Sometimes their pushback leads to a better solution.
Has there been a situation where a stakeholder completely changed your direction?
Yes, and it was actually a good outcome. I was presenting a navigation redesign, and the head of marketing pointed out that one of the sections I was hiding had the highest conversion rate on the site. I had not looked at that data. We kept it visible and redesigned around it instead.
Last question. How do you handle feedback you disagree with?
Honestly, my first reaction is always to listen and try to understand where the feedback is coming from. Sometimes what sounds like a disagreement is actually a misunderstanding. The person giving feedback might have a concern that I have not addressed clearly in my presentation. If after listening I still disagree, I explain my reasoning, not defensively, but by connecting my decision back to the user and the data. And if we still do not agree, I suggest testing both approaches. Data usually resolves the conversation faster than arguments. I think the most important thing is to separate the design from your ego. The goal is not to be right. The goal is to find what works best for the user.
That is a healthy way to approach it. Thank you, Thomas. We will be in touch.
Thank you, Sarah. I really enjoyed the conversation. Have a good day.
This was Thomas's story. If you found this conversation useful, tap the like button. It helps other English learners find this series. And if you want to hear the next interview, just hit subscribe. Your homework today. Think about how you would answer one of these 3 questions in English. Write 2 or 3 sentences. Keep it short and honest, just like Thomas did. Thank you for listening. Until next time.